Hello, welcome back. As part of the next video, we will discuss about databases, views, and CTEs in delta tables. When we're creating delta tables, so we have multiple options there is a concept of database, there is a concept of views like similar to tables, similar to SQL. If you are familiar with SQL, so there is a concept of views in SQL, right? So it is very similar to that. So we will see how to create a tables, how to create a managed unmanaged tables, different kinds of tables, right? External and internal tables, what we call, and how do you create a databases, how do you create a views, and what is CTEs. So these concepts we will discuss as part of this video. Okay, if you are new to this channel and haven't yet subscribed for this channel, so we would recommend you to please subscribe and also press bell button for instant notification. So let's get started. Right. So as you can see, we will cover these topics in this demo. Basically, we will understand how do we create a database, how do we create a tables. I mean, when we talk about tables, there is a concept of managed, unmanaged tables. So in the previous video, we have already explained the mounting to the external sources like a data lake and blob storage. So that will enable us to kind of create unmanaged tables. That means we can use external source, external storage as a physical storage for the tables, so that we call them as a unmanaged tables. So and managed tables, as you might be knowing, it is the table which doesn't have any location. That means by default it stores physically in the Databricks file system, that is DBFS. And also let us understand the concept of views and the importance of CTEs, where you can use this CTEs basically, right? So before any delay, let's get started with the demo now. So now let us understand how do we create a database, right? So it's very simple. As you can see, we are in SQL format of notebook, so we do not specify any magic commands here. So just we can start typing the SQL kind of a code here. And as you can see, the syntax is create database if not exist. So if not exist, I mean, you can skip this. So it's optional thing, but it's a good practice to include this, so that it will only create if it is not existing. Okay, and it will not throw any error for that matter, right? So just we will create a db1. So we are just giving a name called as a db1 underscore default location, because as you can see, we are not specified any location here for this database, explicit location for the database, right? So this is one way of creating a database. And as you can see, if we create this database, so it is kind of created in the DBFS location. So we can also create the table using some external location also. Like as you can, I can give some name here. Like, so we can create a DB2. Okay. So this is a location. We'll come back to the location, but here what we will do is, here we will just create DB2. Okay. So create database if not exist, we will create a DB2 in the custom location, and the location what we'll specify is, so in the previous video we have explained about the creation of the mount points on the blob and ADLS. So if you are not done that, or if you're not I mean, if you don't know how to do that, so I would recommend you to please watch the previous video of this series, so to understand how do we mount the blob storage. And the mounting that we have done on this demo container, and there is a single file now. Okay, you can see a single file that's been there. Okay, we will just delete this file, make it kind of clear, right? So this container is there now, and we can actually, like, if you kind of do a /mnt/demo, you can see there is no files in that container now. So we can pretty much give this container reference here. Okay, so when we are kind of giving the location, right, we can give this mount point as a location, and say database location, right? So let us try this. So as you can see, it has created the database now, but location is not DBFS. In the previous case, we are not given location, so by default it will take the Databricks workspace as its location, physical location. But here the physical location will be your blob storage. Similarly, we can use the ADLS using the mount point of ADLS, But let's go back to the container and see here. As you can see, a 0 byte file is created called db location. So once you start writing into this database, it will start writing to this particular location. Okay. So now let us kind of go a little deeper and understand the how exactly it looks in the background, right? So we have created a db1 in the default location, right? So let us describe this database, describe database, extend it, and the database name itself. Okay. So as you can see, the important point here to know is the location. So here we are not given any location, we are told, right? But by default, it will take the db plus location, and you can see user, hive, warehouse, and .db. So this is very important to understand. So .db is nothing but it is a database. Okay. Similarly, if I describe the custom database that you create, right? Sorry, it is db2. So here you can see it is referring to the mount point. It shows it's a DBFS, but since it is a mount point, it is physically not stored in the DBFS. So this will be stored in the actual location of the blob storage. Okay. And now we have the database, right? So we have a database, and let us create a table inside the database. So first let us use the default location, right? So we have a default database. We have a database created on the DBFS, that is a default location. So let us create a table here, right? So as you can see, this is a managed table in the DB with default location. So this is a table name, and we are giving the schema here: width, length, and height, and also inserting some values. Okay, and let us kind of execute this. Now that it has executed and inserted one row, one record, so we will kind of try to kind of describe this table with the extended keyword, right? So we are just kind of understanding in details, right? So if you can see, these are the three columns, but these are not our interesting part here. As you can see, the type. So the type is important here. This is a managed table. So why it is managed table is we are not giving any location here. If you can see, we are not given any location for the database also. We are not given any location for the table also. That means it is using the Databricks file system as a physical location. That is where it is considering the table as a managed table. And you can see the location inside this database, right? .db. So this is a database location, and inside this database location, one more folder has been created for this particular table. Since we have used this table and understood, so we can drop this manage table now and go to the next step where we will try to create a unmanaged table. So to create an unmanaged table, first we need to switch our database to the other database that we have created, right? That is on the custom location, which is mounted on the blob storage. So we will switch to that here, custom location. So now we are using the database which is mounted to the blob storage. So now you can see we are creating a table, okay, and this is a managed table. Again, this is a managed table because even though your database is hosted in a or your database is physically stored in the blob storage, but a table, we are not giving any kind of custom location in the table creation, right? So if we can execute and see this, and since we have inserted the record, now let us kind of extend this and see. Yeah, so as you can see, it is also a managed table because even though we are using the location which is database which is mounted to the blob location, but table is still an unmanaged table because it doesn't have any location specified when we are creating a table. So now that we have used this table, let us drop this table. So now let us switch back to the DB1, that is the default database, which is mounted into a DBFS location only. So once we are in this default database location, and we have switched to that database, we will create inside this database, we will create one external table. So why we are calling it as external table is we are explicitly specifying the location which is outside Databricks. That means you can use a data lake, you can use a blob storage, you can use a S3 bucket, but anyway, it is not a uh, like Databricks native storage location, right? So here you can just execute this and see, and you are able to create the table, right? And also you can insert particular records here, number of one record here, so to kind of understand it. So basically it's an external table. Okay, specify the table name and give the values. So it is very important to understand now, right? So we have physically chosen this location, which is a blob storage location, that is a container name is demo, and inside that we want to create something called as external table, and we want to store all the data inside that location. So now that we have executed this table and inserted the record, if you go to the blob storage and refresh this, you can see the external table folder is created and all your records are getting stored here. And now if you can see delta log, okay, delta log, it is created, and you can see there is some JSON and CRC files that is created, which will basically hold the value of the versioning or time travel informations, which will be used for auditing. And this is a part file which will be actually holding the data. Okay, and by default, as you can see, this will be a Parquet file format whenever you create any delta table. So it will be a Parquet file format, and physically you can see a delta log. If there is a delta log, that means this external table location is of a delta lake format or delta table format. So now let us kind of execute the describe table command. And if you describe this table, so previously we have seen unmanaged table, right? So here you can see the table type is external. So we can call it as external, or you can call it as a like a unmanaged table also. Previously we have seen the managed table, right? You can see here it is a managed or internal. So here it is external or unmanaged. So it is showing external, right? And it will also show the location that we have used here. So now that we have used this table, let us drop this table as part of this exercise. And also it is interesting to kind of I want to show you one more kind of a way that you can create a table. Okay, so like you can create a table referring the another existing table, like select star from. So external table, you can use the external table, okay, and do a select start from external table, which is the existing table. So let me create the external table, yeah, and insert a record here. Okay, so once you do that, you can select from the external table, right? And you can parallel, you can select this record and put it into this table, where it automatically create the table with the same schema of external table. So now if you observe, closely observe, I have not given any particular schema for external table new while creating. So it will take the schema of its parent table, that is external table. So if I do the select start from external table here, that is a new table, you'll be able to see the records, and also you are able to see the schema is also created for that. Okay, so if you execute one more time, so you will be able to see multiple records. Okay, so that's how we can also create a table. Okay, and there is one more option also to create the table without any schema using the location directly. So you can see we have specified a CSV file, the format as using CSV. So instead of a delta or Parquet file format, we will specify the CSV format here, and option. If you can give the pointer to a exact CSV file, so it will read or parse that schema of that CSV, and it will create the table accordingly with that schema of the CSV file. So this is another way of creating a table. So as you can see, there are multiple ways of creating tables inside of the database. So now that we have understood enough about tables, managed tables, unmanaged tables, that means external table and internal table. So let us switch to the concept of views, right? So views also, creating view is also simple, like just create a view and you just give some location, some name here, view ext table, okay, and just do a select star, okay, and you just give as. So here what we are doing is we are just selecting a copy of the table and creating the view with that table, right? So here we can just select star, or you can just select a few columns so that it will, the view will be created only on that, okay. So since we have selected only two columns, if we do a select star of the view, so the view will be created with the only two columns. So this is how we can simply create a view using a table. And next we can also use the command called show tables, which will actually show all the tables in the database, current database, right? So we are in the default db1 default location database, and you can see uh, like the table names basically, or view name, right? So whatever whether it's a view or table, so that will be listed in the table name category, and is temporary. So these are not temporary tables or temporary views, so that's why it is giving us a false. So then how can we create a temporary views, right? So it is just simple, it is the same syntax that we use for creation of views, but just add a temporary kind of a keyword here, okay. And just to make sure it is a temp view, so we will rename it as tmp underscore view, okay. So now if we execute the same command, it is creating a temporary view. And let us do execute the show table now. And as you can see, the table name, which is a temporary table, and the table location, right, is temporary. Sorry, the table format, is it is a temporary format or not? So it shows it is a true. That means it is a temporary table. So what exactly the temporary table is, right? If we kind of query this table here, let us query this table here. I mean, in real time, right? How do we kind of use this? Just do a select star from this temporary table, and you can see the results, okay. But just out of like, let us see whether we will be able to see the same records when we do the select star from the table in the same workspace but in a different notebook. Okay, this is a Python notebook. Let us add percentage equal here. Yeah, so table or view not found, because the concept of a temporary view is it will be only accessible in the notebook, particular notebook session. So if you are switching to the different notebook, you'll not be able to get that, access that view. So in that case, is there any way that we can create a view that is a temporary views that will accessible across different notebooks? Yes, there is an option. So again, it is a simple, we can just add a keyword here, global temporary view, and so just for naming it GPL, I'll make it, and let us create, execute this. So since it is executed, we will just do a select star from this table, and let us see whether it is accessible here. Sorry. And before that, let us just do a show tables here. So now you can see when we execute the global, the table that we have created, temporary view that we have created, it shows the result. And also, since it is a global global temporary view, in the different Databricks notebook also can access that. So this is the advantage of using a global temporary view, right? So you can access anywhere in the workspace, in any notebook in the workspace. But if you are using a temporary table, that is only session specific, and it will we can access only in the particular notebook and that session which is running. So with that, we have covered enough of the tables and views concept with along with the database, databases concept. So next we will discuss about CTEs. CTEs are nothing but common table expressions. So this can be used in multiple cases or multiple context, and they come handy when we are using in multiple scenarios. So let us take a first scenario, right? So this is a first scenario where we want to create a multiple column aliases using the CTEs. So what does that mean, right? So this code, if you want to explain this code, right? So let us take the first part of this. So this is the first part of the code where we will be creating a CTE called a flight delay. Okay, with particular CTE is nothing but a flight delay, and so you are giving the column names here. You are defining the column names of the CTE. That is, these are the column names. And as inside as you are having a select statement. What does that mean is, so it is selecting from a particular table, and these are the columns. And once it selects these columns from the external table, it will rename or it will alias these column names to the different names. Like here, it delays alias like a total delay time, and origin is aliased as origin airport, destination aliased as destination airport. So with this, it will give you all the records by creating a alias, and finally that will be created as a CTE. And this then the second part will execute using the CTE. The flight delay is a CTE. Using the CTE, it will execute the records, and we can apply the filter as well here, and it will display everything which is there in the which satisfying the this condition. So this is a one condition that we can think about CTEs, using CTEs. So next, one more scenario where we can use CTE is creating a CTE definition itself. As you can see, there are multiple like nested CTEs. What we can see, we can call here, right? So to start with, so this is a part. This part will execute first. So it will get all the records. Origin and destination column from the external table, and then aliases and keep it in this CTE. And after that, so this CTE is kind of there is a wider CTE here, if we can observe, right? So this CTE is used here like origin destination, and then again we are applying some filter here and putting it in lax box CTE. And finally will query the lax box CTE with doing some kind of like a count operation or required operations, right? So that's the advantage of like CTEs when we are defining a nested CTEs. As you can see, in the first we are just selecting the table. Second step we are just applying few filter. Third step we are executing some aggregate functions. So also we can see an example where CTEs can be applied in a kind of creating a subqueries, right? Let us see how. Let us take an example of that. And you can see CTE is inside the subquery. So this is a subquery part. You can see from there's a bracket, open bracket, close here. Within this there is a CTE. So we are just creating a CTE and just selecting first. This select statement will execute and alias this delay to total delay, and it will create a delayed flight as one CTE, right? And then select start from the delayed flight. So this will execute one CTE and give that to the main query. So this is where we can use it as a subquery kind of thing. So we can have multiple use cases of CTEs. One more use cases also we can see, like where we are using this CTE when we are creating a view, right? So as you can see, like create or replace a temp view, like with as with like with CTE, right? So we are giving a CTE name here, and we are kind of giving a alias name. Basically the first statement will execute is this one, and then it will alias these columns, and this will be your final CTE. So and so this CTE will execute, okay? And so once the CTE executes, so your final this origin destination city, we are doing a select star from that to CTE and applying a filter condition. So finally the whole result will go as a view for this I mean result this whole data will go to the particular view as a data. So hope this is another use case, right? So you are able to understand how CTE can be used in multiple scenarios. If you can think about any other scenarios, please put in the comment section so that we can have that discussion where you can use CTE in different other scenarios. So this is about the CTEs, right? So hope we are able to understand different concepts of tables, like how do we create external table, how do you create a like a managed table, right? And how do we create a views, and how do we create a global views, and what is the difference between them, and also we came to know how we can make utilize of the CTEs, that is a common table expressions. Hope this was useful. Thanks for watching.